Okay, so what you have here is you have an irregular figure, of course. It's made out of several different shapes, all kind of combined, and so that's the way we are going to approach it. There's not a formula for this specific shape, so we're going to use several different formulas. I have written a couple formulas up here that we can use to solve this. My first suggestion is if you're going to be finding the area, cut it into shapes that we have talked about and that we know how to find. For example, if I cut it right there, I'll be cutting it into a right triangle. And then maybe I'll cut it over here. There are other ways you could cut this, but I've cut it now into a triangle, a large rectangle, and a small rectangle. So we're going to go and find the areas of each individual piece, and then we'll eventually add them together. I suggest that you use your L's and T's, which is a good way of finding your base and your height. So for example, on this small one, I have a 5 by 4 rectangle. My formula is base times height, so I take 5 times 4, and the area of that piece is 20. It would take 20 little squares to cover it. My next section I have to be careful because it looks like it might be 20. But remember, 20 went all the way across, so I need to go down and find out what that distance is. If the entire length is 20, and this distance over here was 5, then 20 minus 5 is 15. So that distance is actually 15. And you might think the height is 16, but once again, 16 goes all the way to the top. Or if you use this one over here, 6 doesn't go far enough. So I'm going to come out to the side once again and do some understanding, or use some understandings of other measurements to find those. So if the entire distance is 16, but this distance is 4, and this distance is 6, well then I really don't need that one yet. I'm going to need it in a moment for my triangle, but right now I have this entire distance being 6 plus 4, which is 10. So I have a rectangle that has a base of 15 and a height of 10. Once again, formula is base times height, so we multiply. We now have taken care of 2 of our 3 pieces. All we have left is a triangle. My triangle, I need the base and the height. In fact, the 10 I don't need to use. I would need to use it if I were doing perimeter, but I don't need to use it for area. So I'm going to be finding the base and the height. I need this distance, which we just found the distance down here to be 15. I could take that 15 and subtract the distance right here, which is 7. So then 15 minus 7 would be 8. So that distance is 8. And then the top up here, we said we're going to find this one in a moment. If we found this to be 10 and the whole thing to be 16, then 16 minus 10 is 6. And so I have a triangle that has a base of 8 and a height of 6. Once again, our formula for that is base times height divided by 2. So 6 times 8 is 48. Divided by 2 is 24. We now have the number of squares it would take to cover all 3 pieces. All we need to do is add them up. So I take 150 plus 20, which is 170, plus 24, which is 194, and we cover it in squares, so units squared.